What's up, guys? Just doing some work today on some GenAI product development. Nice rainy day from my office, and as I'm working here on this project, I started reminiscing on my journey as an analyst to where I am now working on GenAI application development. And I wanted to share a point of view video on what analytics and data science means from my point of view. So let's get on with the discussion. So when people hear analytics or data science, they often picture dashboards, reports, maybe some buzzwords like AI and machine learning. But here's the truth. Many companies don't really understand what analytics encompasses, and as a result, they often mismanage the function. To me, analytics is not just one role or one technology. Analytics is the umbrella. It's the practice of transforming data into insights, decisions, and ultimately impact. Under that umbrella that I just described to you, there are certain key disciplines, key of which are business intelligence, data engineering, data science, and now, in the modern era, generative AI. So let's dig into these guys one by one. So business intelligence, or BI as it's commonly known, is where most organizations begin and also where a lot of organizations tend to stay. Okay? So BI analysts live in tools like Excel, PowerPoint, Tableau, Power BI, Domo, etc. They build BAU and ad hoc reports, dashboards, and performance views. And at its best, BI is not just reporting, but it's storytelling. So by storytelling, I mean not just looking at the numbers, but also incorporating things like seasonality, the marketplace, or diving into the data itself and looking through the code, looking through the funnel, and telling a comprehensive story on performance. BI is the lens through which leadership makes tactical decisions by consuming data. Next up, you have data engineering, sometimes called data management. So data engineers, these guys build and maintain the infrastructure. So that means data warehouses and Redshift and Snowflake and BigQuery, and also managing the pipelines that move data through ETL processes. ETL stands for extract, transform, load, APIs, and creating these automation layers so the data is just flowing through seamlessly. Okay? So the work of data engineers ensures that the data is not only available, but it's also reliable, scalable, and secure. So by secure, meaning adhering to GDPR standards and things like that, the data is safe, it's private, and this applies especially if you work for like institutions like banks and pharmaceuticals and so on that are very heavily regulated. Okay? So without strong data engineering, your analytics function will collapse. Next, we have data science. Okay? So historically, this has meant advanced analytics. Okay? So words or phrases like, or practices like machine learning and modeling come to mind. Okay, so data scientist explores patterns and relationships and builds predictive and prescriptive models, whether that's regression or classification, clustering, or time series forecasting, logistic regression, etc., etc. And data scientists often partner with business intelligence teams if this is a strong analytics function that is a bit more advanced, to operationalize these models into business-facing solutions, okay? So the day-to-day of most data scientists is spent in tools like R or Python or Jupyter notebooks, and increasingly on hyperscalers like AWS and Azure and Google Cloud Platform, okay? So now we're in the era of generative AI, right? So there's a great instructor called Matt Dencho, and I think he coined the term Generative AI Data Scientist, okay? Which is the ability to not only build models, which is what the data scientist does, but to transform those models into enterprise level products, okay? Which is actually what I'm doing right now, okay? So generative AI integrates LLMs, large language models, RAG, retrieval augmented generation, fine-tuning, orchestration, etc., into real-world business applications. So it's not about building one model, it's about designing intelligent systems that augment human decision making and automate workflows, right? So GenAI data scientists spend a lot of their time in Python. So I'm writing Python code right now. In VS Code, I'm working in VS Code right now. They might use Google Colab, and they work in different hyperscaler stacks like AWS, and also in direct interaction with models like GPT, Claude, Llama, and so on. So here's the problem, guys. Here's the problem, right? Many organizations tend to silo these functions, and worse, they put leaders in place who only understand one piece of the puzzle or don't understand the puzzle at all, right? A BI expert may have no grounding in data science, right? Which is actually quite common. A data engineer may know infrastructure, but know absolutely nothing about machine learning and statistics, which is also very common. A traditional data scientist may know machine learning, but not know how to scale scale solutions into products, right? Like what I'm doing right now. So if you have people at the top who lack the full understanding of the ecosystem I just described to you, you get poor decisions, you get wasted investments, and ultimately you get fractured strategies. The only way to lead analytics and data science effectively is to do the hard work, right? You have to get your hands dirty and do the work like I'm doing right now. And you have to have had hands-on experience at every level of the stack, right? I'm very grateful and fortunate that I've worked across every single discipline I just described to you, okay? And I've also been heavily involved with strategy. So I'm a very rare case. But I don't just operate in theory, I operate from experience, okay? And I've spent almost 20 years doing just that. So today I call myself a GenAI data scientist, but more importantly, I bring a full stack view of how analytics functions should operate. So here's the takeaway. Analytics is not just about silos. It's about integration. Business intelligence, data engineering, data science, and generative AI only create value when they operate as a unified ecosystem, guided by leaders who understand the entire stack. If you're interested in applying these concepts I just described to you to your business, whether that means modernizing your analytics, integrating machine learning, or building GenAI products, let's connect. Let's connect, okay? You can find me on LinkedIn here. I work with organizations to unlock measurable business impact by bridging strategy across multiple industries, technology, and execution. So send me a message and let's talk.